Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Subverting American democracy. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. You may remember New Jersey Governor Chris Christie being pounded by the national media for a controversy on the George Washington Bridge. A grand jury is investigating whether members of Mr. Christie's staff sabotaged traffic on the bridge to get revenge on a political opponent. The story is valid, and the network news went wild with it, devoting 112 minutes to the situation in the first week, 112 minutes. But when the VA scandal story broke, there was no coverage on the nightly network news broadcast for almost 2 weeks. No coverage. When the lost IRS email story broke, just 3.5 minutes combined on all the network newscasts. Unbelievable. That is a news blackout. On the newspaper front, the big three liberal papers, the New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, printed 56 stories and commentaries about Governor Christie in the first week. 56. First week of the VA scandal, 2 stories. First week of the IRS scandal, 3 stories. You want media bias? There it is, beyond a reasonable doubt. So, if James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin were with us today, they'd be the lead guests on The Factor this evening. Because those men envisioned a fair press in America, a media that would inform the people, giving them honest information so they could make educated votes. But that's not what we have today. And that corruption in the media is greatly harming this nation. Again, there's no question about it. There's no question the major national media in America is trying to protect President Obama and will promote the candidacy of Hillary Clinton. For informed Americans, the blatant partisanship doesn't have much of effect. But for the 50% of us who do not pay attention, who do not know very much about their country, media bias is devastating. Because once people think that a person is bad or good, that impression usually remains. For example, there are a whole lot of Americans who don't like me. I know it's unbelievable. They don't like me. But when we ask them why, they don't really know. They've heard things. Maybe Whoopi Goldberg said something negative. It's the same thing with politicians. If a person doesn't pay attention, he or she often bases their opinions on rumors, innuendo, idle chatter. The national media knows that. They know if they bury stories like the VA debacle, the IRS, Benghazi, Putin, whatever, that a negative perception about the Obama administration might not be formed. One caveat. Right now, the president is being overwhelmed by bad news. The media cannot suppress it. It's all over the place. Just today, the gross domestic product fell to its lowest level since the recession ended 5 years ago. And take-home pay for American workers continues to stagnate. The partisan media can't influence that. But it is a shame that in a proud republic, in a vibrant democracy, the American press is so corrupt. It is a shame. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction. Joining us from North Carolina, purveyor of bernardgoldberg.com, Mr. Goldberg. All right, since you were one of the first national press guys to expose the media bias on a national level, this can't be a surprise to you. What is shocking, though, is how blatant it has become. Right. They don't even try to hide it anymore. Exactly,
Bill. It moved from old-fashioned media bias when I first wrote about it to media activism. I mean, they are full participants in Team Obama. Let me make 3 points. There's something I've done on this program in the past, and it's a simple strategy of simply turning the tables. Imagine if George Bush were president and his IRS went after his political enemies or opponents. Imagine if the central character at the IRS took the fifth. Imagine beyond that if we learned that they lost several years of emails. That story would lead the evening news and be on page 1 of every major newspaper for a year straight, and the headlines would be in type as big as the Empire State Building. Point number 2, it's a question. Where are the Woodwards and Bernsteins? In fact, where is Woodward and where is Bernstein?
Well, Woodward, I got to stick up for him. He has been very critical of the Obama administration. Bernstein teaches college out on Long Island now, but we haven't heard much from him.
Okay. I mean, sure, we've heard from Woodward, but if this were a Republican president, his newspaper would be running this on page one
Absolutely.
every day.
No doubt about it.
And the last point. You remember the great sports writer, Bill, Red Smith?
Yes.
Red Smith had one of the great lines of all time. He said, Willie Mays' glove is where triples went to die. Great line. Well, today, the American newsroom and the U.S. Department of Justice is where Barack Obama's scandals go to die. Because once they go there, nothing happens.
Interesting that you mentioned the Attorney General. We're going to do a big investigation tomorrow night on the Factor about the question is there justice in America when these things are not investigated because of political reasons? Because it is obvious that Eric Holder is not going to investigate anything. He's like John Mitchell was for Richard Nixon. He's exactly the same thing. Okay. I got to get on to Diane Sawyer. A very surprising announcement today that she's stepping down as anchor of the ABC News evening broadcast. Very ambitious woman. We both know her. Goldberg and I know her. Not close friends, but she's a person who struggled mightily to get this solo anchor job, and it just seemed a little strange that she'd be giving it up.
It does seem strange, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the story behind what went on today. I do know this. Her ratings are good. She's in second place overall and moving up on NBC. Just last month, for the first time in more than 6 years, they beat NBC in what they call the key demographic, people 25 to 54. So it is surprising, and even though I don't know the answer, let me throw out a couple of possibilities. The person who's replacing her is 29 years younger than Diane Sawyer. That matters in TV sometimes. But the other thing is, when I was at CBS News, Dan Rather had an offer from ABC. And he, through his people, told CBS that Dan wanted Walter Cronkite's anchor chair a year before Walter was planning to retire. And if he didn't get it, he might very well go to ABC with Roone Arledge, who was heading ABC. Who knows? Maybe David Muir's, the successor's agent, went over and said,
he's not big enough. Muir's not big enough. Stephanopoulos is the big winner here because then he does all the big interviews and he does all the big breaking news stuff. Muir does the nightly news, but Stephanopoulos...
Well, everybody does the nightly news, and, you know, why would they make the switch?
Because maybe nightly news isn't that important anymore. The big revenue's in the morning, and they needed to keep Stephanopoulos. That's why. All right, now, I got to let you go, but Bernie did say something that's very interesting about some of the networks wanting younger people. So Goldberg and I have booked a cruise. I don't know how long we can hang in there, Bernie. I don't know how long.
I just turned 39. What are you talking about?
Come on, Bernie, look at you. I mean, you're one step in the grave here. I mean, I don't even know if you're going to be here next week.
That is so wrong.
Okay.
That is so wrong.
No spin zone, Goldberg. You know what it is, man. I got to tell you the truth here. Next on the rundown.